From Hollywood, it's America's #1 popular music show, America's Top 10 with Casey Kasem, where this week you'll see the Cars, Air Supply, LTD,
And we can conquer anything, yeah, baby.
an interview with members of the Grateful Dead, and an update on Peter Noone of Herman's Hermits. Plus, exclusive reviews of Billboard's Top 10 on the pop, soul, country, and album charts for the week ending September 28, 1980. Now, here's Casey Kasem.
Thank you, and hello again, everybody. Let's start off by looking at this week's pop chart. It's interesting to note here that in the top 10, 3 have previously been on the country chart and 2 on the soul chart. In the number 10 spot, the only new record in the top 10 moves up a notch from last week. Kenny Loggins with I'm All Right. Holding at number 9, One in a Million You by Larry Graham. Number 8 this week, it was number 4 last week, Fame by Irene Cara. Moving up one notch to number 7 is Driving My Life Away by Eddie Rabbitt. Also up a notch to number 6 is Paul Simon's Late in the Evening. At number 5 again this week, Johnny Lee's Looking for Love. Number 4 this week, up from number 6 a week ago, Give Me the Night by George Benson. Number 3, same as last week's position, Queen with Another One Bites the Dust. Holding at the number 2 position again this week, Air Supply from Australia with All Out of Love. And number 1, 4th week in a row, Diana Ross and Upside Down.
I said upside down, you're turning me, you're giving love instinctively. Round and round, you're turning.
All right, now it's time for our Pop Spotlight Song of the Week. The group is Air Supply. They were formed in Australia in 1976, and they were an immediate record success back in their native country. Then, in 1977, they toured the United States with Rod Stewart. Earlier this year, Arista President Clive Davis heard their Australian-made album, Lost in Love. He bought it, he remixed it, and Air Supply hit the charts. Our Pop Spotlight Song of the Week at number 2, Air Supply with All Out of Love. Pop Spotlight Song of the Week, All Out of Love by Air Supply. In a moment, my update on Herman's Hermits. Time now on AT10 for my update. And this week we focus on Peter Noone, who was Herman of Herman's Hermits. In the mid-60s, the Hermits started in Manchester, England, and they became a part of the big invasion, the British invasion here in this country. And their bubblegum music caught the fancy of American teenagers, and they produced 2 #1 records. In May of '65, they had Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter, and later that year, I'm Henry VIII, I Am. Now, Herman's Hermits had a total of 19 chart hits. In the early 70s, however, Peter Noone, in his early 20s, retired to the south of France. In 1978, Peter Noone grew restless and returned to Los Angeles and put together a group called the Tremblers. Now, their first album has just been released. Now, let's listen to a little of Herman's Hermits, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter.
Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter.
And now, notice the difference with Peter Noone and the Tremblers.
Little lover, come on over tonight. Little lover, come on over, it's right.
Doesn't sound like the same singer, does it? Well, that's my update on Peter Noone, formerly of Herman's Hermits, and now trying to find his way back into the spotlight with the Tremblers. Now let's take a look at this week's top 10 albums on AT10. Pat Benatar's album at number 10 last week moves up to number 9 with Crimes of Passion, and at number 6 this week, number 7 last week, moving up one notch, Gimme the Night by George Benson. Not a lot of action on the album chart. And at number 1 again this week, second week in a row, it's Queen with The Game.
Another one bites the dust, and another one gone, and another one gone. Another one bites the dust, yeah.
Now it's time for my album spotlight song of the week. The Cars' Panorama is the third album for this pop new wave group. Now their first, simply called The Cars, went up to number 18 on the album chart. Their second went all the way to number 3. With their third album, The Cars move into the top 10 again. And this week, Panorama is number 5. From that album, Here are the Cars with Touch and Go. And that was the Cars hit, Touch and Go. In a moment, our interview with the Grateful Dead. The group The Grateful Dead has been a constant paradox in the music business. This year marks the group's 15th anniversary with over 35 LPs together and individually. But you know, they've never had a top 10 hit. This year's entry, Go to Heaven, climbed to number 23 on the album chart. But despite that lack of chart success, they remain a giant attraction on the concert circuit. Recently, we talked to 4 members of this unusual group. We asked them, what is it that makes their concerts work?
Well, we jumps, and the kids, they jumps too.
The battery, they call it the bateria, you know, I mean, it's what makes it spark.
That's
if
Spanish.
we're up, it's up. If we're down, it's down. And you can't make it move. You can't kick that old beast. She just won't start. But when she does start, she still can roar.
Well, we asked them what they think of current music trends.
I never have known what to make of any of that.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I mean, I wouldn't dare to point my finger at something and say it was happening, you know, or gonna happen or something like that. And there's always something interesting on the radio, no matter what period, even if it's a real slow period. There's always something you can at least listen to. And
there's always going to be something good.
Yeah, there's always going to be new people, new musicians breaking into the music world and finding an audience, all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you have enough tape in your machine for that one. There's so much music. If you want to limit it to popular music, well, popular music to me is all the music I like. Anything I like is popular in my house. I don't know about your house. I have billions of kinds of music. Vicky will come over with on Deco Za, a Japanese drumming record, turn me onto that, and then I'll go back and I'll listen to something else, you know. So popular to me is what I like. I like all music.
And finally, we asked the Grateful Dead how they were able to produce as much material as they have over so many years.
Well, for us, making a record is like a term paper. And it's time for us to turn in our songs and stuff, you know, so we hustle furiously during that last week, you know, before we have to go into the studio and patch together something that's...
Well, man, I've been spending too much time at the beach.
You know, that year's songs come they drop out of the slot.
Right.
With a little force.
Right. Rocking the machine a little bit.
Well, they've been rocking the machine for 15 years. The Grateful Dead expect to keep on rocking that machine for many years to come. Now, let's take a look at Billboard's 10 top hits on the soul chart this week. There are 2 new entries. We have at number 10, moving up 2 spots, Where Did We Go Wrong by LTD. At number 6, moving up 7 big notches, it's Queen with Another One Bites the Dust. And at number 1, 3rd week in a row, George Benson with Give Me the Night. Give me the night. Well, now it's time for our Soul Spotlight Song of the Week. The group LTD was formed in 1968 in North Carolina. The name stands for love, togetherness, and devotion. And when you have a group that's 10 members big, you better have all that going for you on a daily basis. After 12 years, the 10-man group has made that motto work, and they have another hit. Breaking in at number 10 this week on the Soul Chart, it's LTD with Where Did We Go Wrong? Well, now on AT10, it's time for our trivia question of the week. And a viewer in Detroit wants to know whether there's ever been a time when siblings have been on the chart at the same time, but not singing together. Well, in the rock era, that's happened 4 times, between 4 pairs of brothers, and Pat Boone and his brother. In a moment, we'll find out who the other halves of the siblings are. Now, the answer to my trivia question. Stephanie Burt, who watches us on WDIV Channel 4 in Detroit, asked, has there been a time when siblings have been on the chart at the same time but not singing together? Well, it's happened 4 times in the top 40 chart. Earlier this year, Michael Jackson was in the top 40 at the same time as his brother Jermaine. In 1978, Andy Gibb was on the chart at the same time that his brother Robin had a solo hit. In 1972, Donny Osmond had a hit and was joined in the top 40 by his little brother Jimmy. And there's one more pair of siblings who scored simultaneously with solo songs. Not too many of us knew this. In 1958, singing star Pat Boone had a hit in the 40s at the same time his younger brother Nick, who recorded under the name Nick Todd. And there's your answer, Stephanie. 4 pair of siblings have been in the top 40 at the same time with solo hits. Thanks for a good question. Next week, we have a special edition of America's Top 10 for you. It's our rundown of the 10 top recording acts of the 1960s. Be with us, won't you? Till then, keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
I'm all out of